Hello everybody, this is another episode of Western Wisconsin Journal, and I am Buck Malick, here today with three of my close friends, particularly at this time of year when Riverfest is getting close to us. We are especially close friends. Jackie Bradham is on my right, Judy Freund is on my left, and Evie Nurbin is on my far left. We are sort of the planners, the inner core of arrangements for the Riverfest ever since Paul Bourget, who really conceived the idea, moved off the stage to other things. Today is July 3rd, and Riverfest starts on July 17th, Tuesday, July 17th. So we're down to a short period here, and hopefully you'll be seeing this on your televisions in time to do something about it, namely come to some of the events. We propose to go through the program with all of the different events from Tuesday through Sunday and talk a little bit about each one, give some credit to our wonderful sponsors, and probably pay special attention to the Native American part of this year's Riverfest, which is looking like it's going to be even bigger and better than in past years. So I'm going to call on Judy first to give us a peek at Tuesday's events.
Yeah, thank you, by the way.
With no warning.
And this is just a great opportunity to promote an event that I envision becoming more important in our community. And you mentioned Paul Bourget, and you were very instrumental as well, Buck, and sort of moving forward the initial idea, which was to look at this great community and what is really our defining resource, and of course it's the river. And I think that the whole intent of Riverfest is to really give folks who are in Hudson as well as the surrounding area an opportunity to come into the community and to really celebrate that wonderful natural resource that we have. So with that said, the kickoff event on Tuesday is the cleanup. Originally, this was an event that was promoted by the St. Croix River Association, a wonderful champion of the St. Croix River. And when Riverfest began originally, the idea was that let's take that idea of a cleanup and let's elevate it into the status of a real celebration, party with a purpose. I don't know
I think it was Paul.
Of Paul's who came up with that idea, but it is absolutely great. People party on the river, they celebrate on the river, and this party is, the purpose, of course, is not only the cleanup, but to create appreciation. So Tuesday's event starts with the river cleanup. There are a number of organizations from Hudson that gather together teams that'll be assigned to various locations, and they're involved in just simply doing basic river cleanup. At noon, approximately, there's a lunch that's provided as the refuse, if you will, or whatever is collected is gathered. The Carpenter Nature Center always does a terrific program. Jesse Ekrud is great in bringing information from the Nature Center, be it live animals. That is, of course, very informative. And again, it's a celebration of the nature and wildlife along the river. After those terrific kickoff events in the evening, there will be, and actually throughout the week, there are events sponsored by the library. They're for the children that are again focused on the river. And as well as that is the Toonies, which is a puppet show that is environmentally themed, and that is at the band shell at Lake from 6:30 to 7:30.
That's a typo, isn't that, Jackie?
Yeah, I think that one might have been moved to
Sorry to interrupt, Judy,
Yep,
but
no, it's
Picnic Point.
that's
Okay.
at Picnic Point, which
Okay.
is near the boat launch, for those of
Okay.
you who don't know it by that name, Picnic Point, at
Right.
6:30 on
And by
Tuesday.
then the water will have receded and everything will be
Yes.
fine. So
The river
it'll
will be back in its banks.
Yeah, exactly. The river, the river is full now, and so it's going to empty a little bit by then. Anyway, so those are wonderfully environmentally focused events that sort of kick off Riverfest. You have the image of Scrappy and Scrappy Crew. The first year that Riverfest became a celebration, Scrappy was, I guess, conceptualized by an artist, Mary Johnson, from St. Paul, and it, of course, is the mascot of our celebration. When the junk is collected from the river, then Liz Milanofi and a team of young people begin affixing it to Scrappy. Scrappy will be at picnic point undressed, and he will sort of receive his appropriate clothing Tuesday as well as during the course of the week. Did I miss anything?
No, but we could add to it.
There is
couldn't
one
you,
more
Anna,
thing that's
Jackie?
happening at the art bench. The FIPS is holding
yes.
the pop-up art and nature, pop-up art plus nature, I think is what it's called. And there will be a National Park Service ranger there, I believe, or a representative from the Park Service, which will be having art activities for the kids. And that's during the same time as that runs from 11 to 2, I believe.
Great.
So.
Yep.
So it's, just to recap, on Tuesday, it's for those who want to participate in the riverbank trash cleanup. And we do have a number of teams already, so the critical places are covered, but we can always use more. It's gather at
the
10
band shell.
o'clock at the band shell.
And anyone that's interested can participate in that.
Just be a drop-in, yes. We'll have trash bags to hand out, but people who come should probably bring their own gloves, their sturdy shoes, dress for the weather. We'll do it whatever the weather is. Well, be careful about that, Buck. Within reason, we'll do it from 10 o'clock at the band shell, and then only for an hour and a half. People will fan out and go to different places, and then come back at 11:30 to Picnic Point. And there, one of our sponsors, Jimmy John's, is providing some sandwiches. We'll have other sponsors providing other food. So County Market is going to come
Burnix
through again, I
Pepsi,
suppose.
and what was the other one? Hudson Dairy Queen. So
Oh,
it should
Dairy
be a good
Queen
lunch
is-
for all the volunteers that help in the cleanup.
And if you just show up, you'll be assigned to a team.
Yes, we can handle that without any trouble at all. This year, I know for sure that Youth Action Hudson is fielding a team. They typically are in 6 to a dozen people. And our major sponsor, Norlake Standex Company, is planning to have a similar number of people. The Lake Malibu Association, where we need is here, the dental office, and Jimmy John's that I know of at this point, 2 weeks out from the event. Let's
So
see,
it does
anything
raise the question of the water level, but in the past we've had signage in proximity to Lakefront Park. So should there any events be moved, it'll be duly noted.
And this isn't the first year that we've had Mother Nature and the river wanting to be a little bit closer to our activities than we had planned.
Well said, Evie. Yeah, that's right. We've had to, and Jackie, who manages our website, will put any last-minute
keep 'em up.
stuff on the website. So let me just get that out there right now for you. If you've got your pencil and your pen, stcroixriverfest.org, STCROIXRIVERFEST, no punctuation, no spaces, .org. So last-minute changes will show up there.
Great.
And Facebook.
And the Facebook
Facebook
too,
page, yep.
which you find the Facebook by just looking for St. Croix Riverfest, right? Yep, good. Okay, we'll come back to sponsors and a little more about Scrappy later, perhaps. Well, might as well talk more about Scrappy right now. Do you want to talk about Scrappy on Wednesday, Jackie, or shall I?
Well, Scrappy.
We clothe Scrappy starting Wednesday. Right?
Yes, he gets redressed. The Liz Milanopi and the kids from the deluxe, Deluxe Water?
Just Add Water.
Just Add Water
Water's
class.
Deluxe.
through the Phipps Center for the Arts. It's a summer class, and part of that class is having those students work with an artist to refashion Scrappy. So we go down the riverbanks and parks and find all that trash. Some years it's well, I should say every year it's different. The different things are found, and kind of intriguing to see what kind of items are floating around in the river and end up on Scrappy. And another thing that we always do is once he's the group of students work on dressing him, he is premiered at the concert on Thursday night, and everybody gets to see him. And we do a seek and find, so kids can go out and try and find some of these unique items that were found on Scrappy. And it always amazes me what we find and what ends up on Scrappy. It's
Such as what?
Oh, well, there's
Tell us about the bridal gown.
the bridal gown. In addition to Hudson, the Kinnickinnick Riverland Trust also uses the Scrappy as in his parade, on the River Falls Parade. Mm-hmm. And they do a river cleanup on the Kinney. So they found a wedding gown, was it? A brand new?
Yep, on a hanger in a plastic
Yep.
container.
And I think they were also were fortunate enough to find the one tennis shoe, and a little boy came by and recognized his own tennis shoe. So after they were done, they gave the child back his tennis shoe, so he got his pair of shoes back. So still had the old one, might as well. So yeah, there's usually lots of flip-flops, lots of bait boxes, those little blue bait boxes. So fishermen, please don't leave those, because we'd rather have Scrappy naked blue boxes than have them on the river stream. Another thing that sadly we find a lot up on the cleanup is the fish line. So it's like, fishermen, if you're out there, pick up your fish line. And obviously we want to be lead-free in the rivers too. So there's a lot that people that are out on the river fishing and doing things can do to make Scrappy's outfit scarcer, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. Yeah.
And lots of plastic.
Lots of plastic, lots of water bottles, straws, flip-flops are another popular one. I think a lot of people lose their flip-flops in the river. Yeah, things that float, and just cans and bottles. Yeah, not too much glass bottles, but a lot of plastic bottles. Yeah. Yep. Which is sad, but Scrappy and the cleanup crew appreciate the materials, but we'd rather have to go elsewhere for them.
Sure.
Well, as Judy said, we have basically a theme here, which is a stewardship message. You know, this is a river we all enjoy, but it only is the way it is because we take responsibility for it, and that's a part of that party with a purpose idea of either not throwing out the trash to begin with so it gets into the river, or picking it up when you see it. We think we're noticing a slight decrease in the amount of trash that's available to be picked up on our riverbanks, but the numbers aren't large enough for statistical significance yet.
I know from the parade, Scrappy was in the Boosters Day parade, and I know afterwards we collect up the trash bags, and there were significantly less this year. So kudos to all the people attending the Hudson Boosters Day parade. They took home their trash instead of leaving it, and I'm sure there was plenty of trash, plenty of trash generated just as much, but people are being responsible and taking it home. So it was nice to have just a few bags to put away.
That is great. We and our friends in the Youth Action Hudson and others have gotten into this pattern of entering the local parades and towing Scrappy behind the truck in the parade, and then having walkers handing out trash bags to the folks who are watching. That's what Jackie's alluding to here, encouraging them to deposit their own trash in the bag and pick up any litter that they see around them and take it all home and dispose of it properly. And that, we're happy to say, is working out too.
It's improving.
That's a good
There's
thing.
less trash every year.
Yeah.
When I drive that truck in the Booster Parade or the North Hudson Pepperfest or in the River Falls Days Parade, I'm gratified to hear so many kids in the audience saying, "Hey, there's Scrappy," and so on, and turning to their parents and explaining that Scrappy makes lots of appearances besides the parades and the Riverfest week at schools, libraries, and the like. So it's a chance to and at the hot air affair. That's right, on Friday night. While everybody else is shivering, I'm sitting there in that warm truck pulling Scrappy along.
And the same kind of thing at that event where Scrappy greets people going into the elementary school, and the kids are pointing out to each other and to their parents the unique things like Jackie mentioned, seek and find.
Yep.
Which is sort of like a scavenger hunt without having to go anywhere, except just walk around Scrappy's trailer and look for things and check them off on the list, or however kids want to participate in the seek and find. So that's the constructing Scrappy. That starts on Tuesday, and Liz Milanofi's kids from the FIPS do that project. There's a little there's a little technology involved in getting that right, and there's art involved definitely in clothing Scrappy in an artistic way. So they do that Wednesday, using Tuesday's trash, and then they finish it usually Thursday morning, and we move Scrappy over from Picnic Point to the band shell to be there for the concert. So let's see, also on Wednesday, we have more library activities, the continuation of the Just Add Water class. Some years, the YMCA log rolling people who win awards for their log rolling do a demonstration. I'm not sure, it always depends on weather and kids and their schedules and all that kind of thing. But we do know for sure that this year on Wednesday night there will be the Prairie Hike at the Carpenter Nature Center Wisconsin campus, right?
That's right.
That will accommodate around 25 people. I don't, because they have to be able to hear the people who are identifying the birds and the wildflowers on the campus at the Carpenter Nature Center down there off East Cove Road.
It is. Yeah. I was just going to insert that. I'm surprised as you go through the community how many folks are actually not aware that there is a Wisconsin campus of the Carpenter Nature Center. Many folks know of the one that's down just north of Hastings, but there's a beautiful piece of property about a little over a mile south of the Y Camp, and then you take Cove Road to the east. There, it's marked, and there's just lovely prairie field, lovely space that's there. And so on Wednesday evening, they'll have a nice nature walk. People are amazingly knowledgeble. It's amazingly informative and guaranteed to learn a lot and have fun as well.
Isn't it Genevieve from the Carpenter Nature
Genevieve are one of their amazing people who are on their staff. Exactly.
And they're usually accompanied by Missy Sparrow,
Missy
right?
Sparrow.
From
Exactly.
the DNR.
Yeah.
She's kind of the plant wizard, and Jen or Jesse are the bird wizards.
And if you hang around long enough, it goes from 7 to 8, I believe. It just gives you this amazing vista for a sunset. So it's lovely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Thursday becomes a big day. At one point, it was the biggest day event, particularly with the concert. Nowadays, maybe the Native American performance is rivaling it, but there's still a lot on Thursday. It begins, of course, with finishing up Scrappy and moving Scrappy. The sailing school, which meets downtown at Picnic Point this year, as probably everybody knows, is going to have an open house in the afternoon at 2 o'clock. So people who are interested in the activities of the sailing school should just drop by unannounced, and you'd be perfectly welcome. In the evening, starting at about 6 o'clock, nonprofit, outdoorsy type groups set up booths and displays at the band shell around the loop of the paved walk in front of the band shell, and they are available to meet the public and show what they do and how they do it. Occasionally they're signing up people for things. And then the concert's at 7. I guess it's back to you, Judy.
Back to me.
This illustrates how much you make happen.
Well, the concert is, the first couple of years we gave a lot of thought to who we might bring and put on stage to celebrate this great festival. And the idea of inviting Chris Chernahoy and her community band, it seemed to be such a natural thing to do. It's a community-based event. We're really looking to engage as many community members as possible. That community band orchestra is another amazing resource, as is Chris Chernahoy. So the last number of years, she has put together just a great, a great program. This year, we really need to state that this is the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Wild and Scenic River Act. Of course, the St. Croix River was one of the original rivers that were under the umbrella of that act. And so Chris Chernahoy will be selecting music that really exemplifies the celebration around that great event. We will have someone from the National Park Service, Julie Galanska, actually the superintendent of the St. Croix Wild and Scenic River, will speak a bit about the importance of that act and how it has really created an environment that we all treasure, all of us, not only in Hudson, but everyone living up and down the river. As well as we'll have some words from our major sponsor, and which is just a great affirmation of a commitment to stewardship. And I think it's just really spectacular. And then there'll be a lot of course, fun things for kids to be doing. Many of them sponsored by the nonprofit booths. And we also will have it's called Water is Life booth this year, inviting participants to come up and be involved in the creation of, again, a statement that affirms the value and treasure that the St. Croix River is. That's a great addition. We've been wanting to do that for years. And so thanks to the work in bringing on folks, American Indians folks, we're going to make that happen this year. So, yeah.
That's
Again,
good.
Did I forget anything?
You were anxious to say
Oh,
something there.
I
weren't
just
you,
wanted
Jackie?
to note that our event sponsor is Norlake.
Oh, sure.
Yes,
Sure.
yes.
Right.
Yep.
And
what are they doing at the night of the concert?
at the night of the concert, are they going to have their root beer, cold root beer? They're going to show off their refrigeration system
Yay.
and provide some cold root beer for the audience. So.
The last couple of years, it's been hot enough that a cold root beer was amazingly refreshing.
Yes.
So that's great.
Yeah, and members of their management team come and mingle with folks. Norlake, of course, is an important employer in the community, has been for decades now, and they're always interested in interfacing with the community, their future employees, and factors like that. And we're just delighted to have them as our major sponsor last year and this year. It's a grand thing.
Participation in the concert, as you said, the Native American events are really becoming popular that we've been doing the last couple of years. Participation in the concert is great. In spite of some hot years, we have, 400 people who come out and enjoy the evening. So.
Something less than 1,000 anyway.
Yeah, right. Okay, less than 1,000. 999.
Is there going to be, well, we'll see what Chris Chernahoy comes up with, but in past years she's had kids drumming on the bottoms of canoes or marching around the
Variably they
sidewalk.
march, yeah.
So I dare say there'll be something on that order.
Great family event.
The Water is Life idea comes from Jim Knutson-Klodzny. He's used this idea before. He takes a half sheet of plywood, essentially, or something about like that, and gets 3 or 4 buckets of paint, right, each with its own paintbrush, and he tapes the message onto the bare plywood, and then invites members of the audience to come and take a brush and make a swipe with whatever color they choose. And after everybody has participated and the board is now covered and the tape is covered, then he peels the tape off, and there is the message behind this colored, I was going to say collage, but I don't think that's really the right word. anyway.
Painting?
It's a painting, yeah.
Participatory art.
There you
Yeah.
There
go.
you go.
Yeah.
That's a good description.
You know, Anastasia Sharton of the Phillips, the visual arts director there, has been central to our planning since we began, and she keeps reminding us of the power of art and its relationship to stewardship. And so with her to remind us, we keep art in the center, whether it's with Scrappy or it's with the Water is Life or any of the other factors.
And what's kind of fun is we've talked about this for years, and we just need that right person to step forward, which Jim did last year as a first-year participant in Riverfest, and brought this idea that was floating around out here, and we weren't quite the group to put it together, but to bring someone in to have the expertise to make it happen.
Right.
So there's lots of other ideas out there that haven't moved forward yet that
Right.
some of the viewers who have great ideas can come join us, or we'll just give us some ideas that we already have but we don't know how to do yet.
Well said. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we see this a lot like the organizers of the Hot Air Affair, which is what now, 27 years old?
It will be 30 this
It
year.
will be 30. Okay. Seems like only yesterday. But it
yesterday.
began with a small germ of an idea, you know, and has grown until it becomes a major part of Hudson life. And that's all good. The folks at Norlake, of course, are busy making refrigeration equipment, and they have these tremendously skilled craftsmen and women, and so they're also making a stand for Jim's Water is Life things so that they can be hung up and displayed, and we envision that happening in the front lawns of some of our business sponsors, in front of the library, in the library, bank lobbies, schools, in various places, indoors and outdoors, with a well-made stand to hold up the art, the pictures. Well, Friday is a relatively slow day, so here, those of you in the audience who have ideas that you think ought to be added to Riverfest, keying off Heavy's comment, a lot of things could happen on Friday. The only thing that we have officially as part of it is a river cruise, and the Afton Cruise Line is doing a cruise on the boat that's tied up at the Hudson docks. And the price is it about
$18 for
$18,
just
yeah.
the nature cruise, and then $37.95 if you would like to register for dinner too. And you register through the stcroixrivercruise.com is their website. So
Do you have a link on our website?
yep, we have a link on our website, so you can
Get there
register
either
there.
way, but
Register that
you
way.
need to do it at least a few hours in advance of
Yes,
the trip,
you need to.
so they can plan.
The boat space is limited,
Yes.
so the boat is only so large. So you should register early if you're interested. And that, again, Carpenter Nature Center will be bringing their animal ambassadors and be doing a presentation there as part of the cruise, which is always interesting.
And if anybody's interested, bring along your binoculars.
Yes.
Because there will be volunteers who are involved in working with Carpenter Nature Center, who also are very good at not only identifying wildlife, but also birding. And so they'll be on the boat. And so bring along binoculars, because again, it's a great resource and opportunity to be in the midst of this beautiful environment. So.
And that was what I was going to comment. There are people like me who don't swim, shouldn't kayak. No one wants to go canoeing with me. So this is the one time that the person who isn't a water person can be out on the river and enjoy the river and see what this resource is all about. And we were out for another event recently, and I hadn't been on the river for a while. And it's just an appreciation for what we have and take for granted, and the people who aren't from the St. Croix Valley or aren't from this region are so amazed at what the experience is when you're out on the river. And your comment about the birding when we were out, one of my conversations was with a couple who live south of Hudson and talking about the eagles that were near their home, the osprey that lives just down the street, the osprey fishing the koi out of the neighbor's pond, and a bird going by with an orange fish in its talons. Those are the kinds of things that, particularly kids, that's a lifelong memory to see those kinds of things, and it's a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah. Now, you made me think of something else. Am I wrong that a couple years ago we had someone come to our community from Canada?
Oh, yes.
Because they
talked to
had-
them on the boat.
Yes, as I recall, that's where.
They had seen your website
Yeah, on the
in
website.
Montreal, I think it was. And they decided they were going to take their vacation here in Hudson at the time of Riverfest. And they, of course,
International event, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. So,
I'm waiting for somebody to come from across the pond from Europe or from Asia. But at least for this continent, there's that. This year, I'm going to be interested to see how Prospect Park looks after the goats have been grazing it. You know, we have that little project that Sustain Hudson and Tropical Wings got involved in funding to have goats eating the buckthorn on Prospect Park on the side that faces the river, naturally, which is good bird habitat, speaking as long as it's not overrun by buckthorn. It's good bird habitat. And that should be visible from the ship, probably with the naked eye, but certainly with the binoculars. Yeah. Well, then Saturday, so we're up to Saturday the 21st of July. Let's see, the very first thing is the kids' fishing derby on Lake Malibu. I'm usually in charge of that, so I know the most about it. I buy the worms and get the fishing rods and the gear and the scale to weigh the fish. We have it's for kids from 6 to 12. So they're big enough and handy enough for their hands to manipulate a fishing rod, you know, and manipulate fish for that matter. We have a set of mentors who are happy to teach kids how to fish. And in fact, that's about the only fishing I do anymore is putting worms on for other people and stuff like that, but it's rewarding. So from 8 to 10. Now, the location is a little hard to find for people who aren't fully familiar with Hudson. Between Hudson and North Hudson is Lake Malibu, and there's a bridge from 2nd Street in Hudson to 6th Street in North Hudson. And if you're traveling from Hudson towards North Hudson, going north, when you get just before that bridge, on your right, to the east side, is a boat launch and stuff called Corky's Pier. We go on the other side, on the St. Croix side. We turn up a little street there that's called North Street. It's the furthest north street in the city of Hudson, and follow it around, and it comes to the southwest bay of Lake Malibu, and an area that's got fish but is underfished. So it's a good place, and it's got a lot of shoreline there, places to park, so it's a good place to fish. And it will have been cleaned up on Tuesday by the good folks from Norlake, who are taking that area for their assigned area to pick up trash. So it should be a good spot from 8 to 10. We will have, as I say, fishing rods and everything that's necessary, so people can bring their own, but they don't have to. We do award prizes. It's a little quirky. Some of you might enjoy this. We award a prize for the heaviest fish, for the lightest fish, and for the person who caught the most fish. So
Sometimes they can be all one person.
sometimes if the fishing's not good, I haven't seen that yet, but it might be this year. Yes, it can be small. Let's see, then the library is having, several, at 10 o'clock, actually, let me put you on hold a moment, Evie, and we'll talk about, just for a moment, the library has Echo the Mermaid at 10:30, right?
Yes.
Yep, this year. It's a woman who puts on a finny
Mermaid costume. Yeah.
mermaid costume, yeah, over her feet, and then tells stories. And this year she's going to be talking about her experiences swimming from Prescott to Hudson, is it?
The life on the river for a mermaid between Hudson and Prescott. It should be entertaining for the children. They'll enjoy seeing a real live mermaid.
Yeah, yeah. And she sings, if I remember right, and she's got a piratey guy who sings along with her duets. Should be fun. And then at 10 o'clock, that's when the Native American and / lacrosse stuff starts, right, Evie? And
Absolutely.
there's a fresh off the press flyer for this. Tell us, make allowances for Evie's voice, because her heart medicine gives her a quirky, down low voice. Passing that off to you.
Well, speak slowly. Riverfest started Native American programming a few years ago, and Jackie's the expert on our committee for history of the St. Croix Valley and Hudson, and the Native American presence in the valley has always been very important, and we decided with Riverfest, and part of it because no one else was telling the story in this area. What are we doing that no one else is talking about? I think it has grown because of that unique part of Riverfest, where we've partnered with Wisconsin, in particular Wisconsin tribes. There's an organization called Native American Tourism of Wisconsin. The closest tribe to our area is the St. Croix Chippewa up in Danbury, Cumberland area. They've been with us from the very beginning, Mark Soulier and his Trails youth group, and variety of people from the St. Croix tribe have been here. And NATO, Native Tourism, brought us some special things last year, and I've been able to watch out of the corner of my eye behind Buck's head. There have been a lot of pictures of previous years. It's the colorful regalia, it's the sound of the drum, it's the singing, it's the whole cultural experience that makes it different and makes it fun. And you see an opportunity for everyone to see that most white folk can't dance. And we prove it every year.
Yes.
But the wonderful powwow kind of format that the St. Croix tribe brings in showing the different regalia, the stories of the regalia, the jingle dress story, the grass dance story. And last year we had a special performance group that came. And this year we're going to be hosting the Oneida Smoke Dancers, and the youth group from the Oneida tribe over by Green Bay will be our featured specialty dance group along with the St. Croix tribe. We're starting the day with something totally different, and I think it's going to be interesting to watch. Hudson is a huge community that enjoys the game of lacrosse. And as we've watched the popularity grow in Hudson and other places in the region, the Native American historical folks stand back and go, oh, we've been doing this for a long time. And so we're bringing Dan and Susan Ninham Dan is Oneida from the Green Bay area originally, and he's up in the Brainerd area now. He's involved with many indigenous game kinds of special events, teaching not only Native American students, but hopefully lots of Hudson folks will take advantage of his knowledge, tell the stories, show the original equipment that was used by Native tribes. We have some interesting history in the St. Croix Valley. There's a lot of materials that you can find at the library or on your own. Jackie's well familiar with the Mary Beth Labricki book that was done years ago, Painting the Dakota, which is the Seth Eastman photo booklet or book that has a picture of
Lacrosse
I think
players.
the Dakota were playing lacrosse on the Minnesota River. And so there's history from this whole region. So we start the day with lacrosse. If you know nothing about lacrosse, come and learn. If you want to play, I have a feeling there will be some lacrosse playing going on before the morning is over. Our program starts at noon with some of the other tribes bringing special talents to the bandshell stage. Jeff Chapman, who is an Ojibwa flutist and storyteller, is on at noon. The Oneida Youth Smoke Dancers, The Water is Life, Jim Knudsen Kolodzny will be talking about the painting. We'll have that going on also on Saturday. Jeff Chapman and youth dancers again in the afternoon. And then at 2:15, the St. Croix tribe will come to the bandshell stage with their presentation. And some of the pictures you've been seeing behind Buck are the head dancers from last year, who will be Jackie Mallory and Brandon Geshik are the head dancers. Steve Mallory is the lead on the drum. Rodney Mallory will be the announcer, talking about the different programs that they've been involved with and explanations of the dances and the songs and what they're doing. And the Trails group, the young people from the St. Croix tribe, will also be there participating. So I think we're going to have an overview of what you might be able to participate in and for sure watch if you were to go to a powwow in Minnesota or Wisconsin. There are 11 tribes in Wisconsin. There are 11 nations in Wisconsin with multiple tribes. There are 11 nations in Minnesota that are 2 tribes. And each of these has their own cultural backgrounds, their own specialty, unique ways of doing their tribal dancing and their celebrations. So it's kind of fun to see something different and unique with each of these segments of our program. So we're hoping that we have good weather.
Yeah.
We're having good weather. We'll be having educational and informational booths at the Native American program on Saturday with folks like Native American Tourism of Wisconsin, the American Indian Center at St. Cloud University, Fort Follavoine Historical Park, which is up in the Webster-Danbury area in Burnett County. The St. Croix tribe partners with the Burnett County Historical Society and has both the fur trading history and the Native American Chippewa history that was in that early 1800s time frame. The library, the Historical Society, lots of other folks will be there sharing information. City of Hudson last year created a handout on the Indian mountains that we have here in Hudson. And kind of fun to go up to Berkmos Park and just see the view out over the St. Croix River, and variety of stories of what they are and when they came and whatever, but they're there. So invite people to view that part of Hudson also.
And there may be, the Ninnums may also have a demonstration of long ball and shinny. Do I understand? Is that possible? Shinny is the game for women and girls, especially, right?
And a conglomeration of what's popular in their programs and sharing. We saw something, some of us attended the Native American Tourism Conference recently, and we saw something that my husband commented. He heard some talk in the hall because girls were part of a drum group, and that's not historically accurate. So it's things could be changing on how culture is being shared. But looking at a variety of games that were traditional games, some of which are still played by everyone, and huge popularity of lacrosse, and growing popularity of lacrosse right now.
I think the flutist who not only plays the flute but makes flutes of traditional materials and in traditional fashion should be interesting. And then there are, what, 2 or 3 crafts booths expected. And then you got some of those nuts and maple syrup thing.
We're working on having some native agricultural tourism sampling. Again, we attended a native tourism conference a few years ago that the entire conference was food that would have been eaten by the historic tribes in the 1800s, and so it was the berries and the wild game and the nuts and the maple syrup and the honey and lots of things happening in native tourism now. White corn, the Oneida raise and sell white corn at some of their enterprises over in the Green Bay, Oneida area, which I'd never heard of before, and it's good, very good.
It is tasty, huh? Are you chomping to say something? Judy?
Well, I don't know chopping, but I think that, and Evie, you've just done a brilliant job putting together that program on Saturday afternoon. And Buck, you said earlier, Evie, you as well, that piece of Riverfest has really grown. I believe it was the first year, maybe it was the second year, there was a similar event in northern Wisconsin with the flooding that occurred around Highway 2. And particularly some of the tribes up in northern Wisconsin were heavily impacted on that. And a blanket was passed around at the suggestion of the Native American organizers. And I think the Native Americans, were really touched by the generosity of the people in the community of Hudson. And as you have shared your conversations with various organizations and groups and representatives of the tribe, I can't help but feel that the generosity that was demonstrated by the people here, interest in the program, interest in the offering and the presentation that those folks were providing for us, as well as the generosity in collecting monies to help, has had an impact.
Yeah, I was astonished at the suggestion. I think it was Mark Solier that suggested we set out a blanket because the Bad River Nation had experienced flooding. They're located about 20 miles east of Ashland, Wisconsin. I happened to be up there in this last spring for a birding festival, and I drove over to Odana, which I believe is, you told me, is the Chippewa word for town. So the town of town, that's fine. But it was seriously flooded, and here I think it's been seriously flooded again about 2 weeks ago with heavy rains up north. Roads washed out and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, in 15 minutes, people put $400 and some into the blanket to benefit those people at the Bad River Reservation. And so there are points of contact and interest. We're all human. They have interesting things to say about stewardship. You know, the relationship to the natural world for Native Americans is just kind of inherent and ingrained, and for them, much of it's just naturally. It just naturally comes that way. Whereas for us, we with a Western scientific thought, you know, tend to think in terms of atoms and molecules and that sort of thing. It's a little bit more of a force fit to identify with the environment. Anybody want to add to that?
Well, as the pictures are showing behind you, I've had people ask me on a variety of things, why do you do this? Why do you people spend all this time? You see the pictures of the children from Hudson and the children from the St. Croix tribe dancing together with the river in the background. That's what it's
That's
all
why,
about.
yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Nicely said.
Yeah, eloquent, maybe. So that'll be starting at 10 down at the band shell. We'll probably play some lacrosse, certainly have demonstrations between roughly the arch and the band shell. And then from about noon on, it'll be the dancing, drumming, and so on, exhibits and such until about 4. There's one other thing that's in connection with our Riverfest on Saturday, the 21st of July, and that's out at the Willow River State Park, where the Mermaid Echo will reprise the performance done earlier in the day at the library. And then on Sunday, we go to the Octagon House grounds, right, Jackie?
Yes.
And that's your particular, you're on
Yes.
the board there and so on.
On Sunday, we're going to have our annual Civil War encampment. We've been doing this longer than Riverfest has been around, but it seems to pair pretty well to roll that into Riverfest. And then we'll have an ice cream social fundraiser for the Octagon House Museum. So people are welcome to come to the encampment, and we have our reenactors from the Prescott Guard that come in and set up a camp, and people can wander around, ask questions, have a look at the tents and the equipment, and Doug Harmon and the group that come in are very knowledgeable, and it's very entertaining. It's casual, lots of fun, very educational, lots to learn about. And when you have reenactors that are so dedicated and know so much, it really makes for a fun event. And then, of course, we'll have a ice cream social where we'll be making handmade, hand-cranked ice cream, and everybody that wants to can have a try at cranking some the ice cream churner. And yeah, it's a fun evening or fun afternoon. It's from 11. It starts in the morning, 11 o'clock till 4, and of course the museum will be open for tours if anybody wants to tour the museum. But it's usually a beautiful day, and it's made beautiful
You're
because of
guaranteeing
the.
good weather?
Well, I got to find some wood
You
and
were
knock on
rained out
again.
once.
We got rained out once. I think this is our 10th annual, and we only had one. So I say that Doug and his group and the Prescott Guards, they're charmed. And even the year that it rained out, they still set up camp. So they're pretty dedicated to what they do. Their theory is if the men during the Civil War, if they had to go through wearing those wool they weren't costume uniforms, and playing or camping out in the rain, they're gonna stick to it. They're very hardy. They do a great job.
The river and the confluence of the Willow and the St. Croix were always important in Hudson's history from day one in 1840, right?
Yeah, and the Civil War, I mean, that's during the Civil War when the troops were sent away. It was the river. They'd
The
load.
river on a riverboat.
They'd
The
go on the
railroad
riverboat.
was not
So
here.
yep. There's stories of. I think there's one story that talks about how when the Civil War soldiers were all marching off, they were playing the Dinsmore Boys. I don't know who the Dinsmore Boys were playing The Girl I Left Behind. And everybody that was listening to them got all choked up because many of those boys they knew would not be coming back. So, yeah. But the steamboats were the way to travel. The river was, before the roads came,
Sure.
you had to travel by river. Before the railroads came, you had to travel by river. There weren't roads that went from, very few roads that went from town to town. The river was your highway. That's how you got where you needed to go.
And those who came back by river.
Yep, they
So
came back by river, and
the railroad
actually
wasn't until later.
they say that the day they came back was the day that that night is when, that night after they came back, the day after they came back from the Civil War, one of the troops coming back, that was when we had the Great Fire of 1866 that burned down most of downtown Hudson.
Oh, really?
So you come home
Very
from the
next
Civil
day?
War and your town burns down. It must have been
Yeah.
quite tragic for them. Or, well, having half your town burned down is tragic, but it had to be even more so. So there's a lot of local history like that. It's just amazing when you think about it and how important the river was to our history. So.
Well, no, what did we need to
Talk
probably
about
pay?
partners and sponsors.
Yeah, partners and sponsors. We're talking, of course, about Riverfest 2018, which starts on Tuesday, July 17th, and goes through Sunday, the 22nd. We've just gone through the agenda fairly much, covering things, but none of it would be possible without our sponsors, because although we have lots of things that can be done by volunteers, there are costs involved, particularly in the advertising, spreading the word around part of it. Evie is, I guess, probably our principal fundraiser in terms of telephone, aren't you, Evie? And we try to do everybody, the sponsors, by including it in our advertising, both in the flyers, and this is the insert that goes into the Pioneer Press and
The Hudson Star Observer.
into the Star Observer. So all subscribers get this in their homes.
And I just uploaded it to the website. So it's now, there's a printable version, flyer of Riverfest. So all the information is there at the time we printed it. We've actually had a few events that have been added since then. So might even have a few more.
Well, and I think keeping an eye on Facebook is going to give
Facebook will
anybody,
give.
if you didn't take notes on everything we were just saying,
It's all there.
It's all there.
It's there, and everything added. The website and Facebook will keep us informed, because Jackie doesn't ever sleep between the 1st of July and Riverfest.
So we've got the event sponsor, Norlake.
Yep.
Norlake Standex. And then we've got the major sponsors. Let's see, next in order is the premier sponsors, right? Last year, the HIBA, Hudson Independent Business Association, chose Riverfest as one of its 5 charities to support. And so from the Helping Hands event, which happens the last weekend in September, from that Helping Hands event, they made a contribution to Riverfest. And then the group called Sustain Hudson, which is about sustainability, local consumption and growing and things like that, is the other premier sponsor. And then we have the program sponsors, which Evie touched on briefly, but I'll mention again, the Native American Tourism of Wisconsin, NATOW, very important. The Chippewa Indians, the St. Croix Chippewa Indians of Wisconsin, which is the band that, band or tribe, whose area encompassed the Hudson area at the time of the 1837 treaties, when things kind of changed over there. So we're in their territory, as it were. A major sponsor, a program sponsor, and the St. Croix Casino, which is owned by that tribe of Indians, is the other program sponsor. And then we have the major sponsors, Saranda, the Daybreak Rotary Club, right? And the Hudson House Grand Hotel. Hudson House is contributing rooms, is that correct, Evie, for the Native Americans who have to travel from distant points of the compass to get here, from over in Green Bay and Michigan, Bemidji, yes. And then we have a list of supporting sponsors: the Citizen State Bank, First American Bank, First National Community Bank, the Hudson Hot Air Affair, Ross Orthodontics, St. Croix River Cruises, and Wiseway Transportation Services, and Xcel Energy. And at the investor level, we have Catalyst Sports Medicine, Fresh and Natural Foods, Gavitt Construction Corporation, John Coleman, the architect, Retail Construction Services, Royal Credit Union, Seasons on the St. Croix Gallery, the Purple Tree Store, Uline Company, and Valley Orthodontics. And then helping us with this advertising, and therefore contributing in kind. We have media sponsors, the Hudson Star Observer, the Hudson Neighbors magazine, and the Valpak, which hits Minnesota, right? Eastern Minnesota, to encourage those folks to come over here for the Riverfest. Who did I miss? Well, there was one today. I mentioned Jimmy John's, I guess, in passing, and then County
Those are
Market.
more partners,
And-
partner organizations.
They're in the partner section.
Down at the bottom of the flyer.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We have
yes.
a lot of organizations that contribute to the Riverfest, and that's part of what makes it successful is when you have organizations like Carpenter Nature Center and the City of Hudson, Sustain Hudson. I can go through the list here.
There is a
I'm
list.
halfway through there. The City of Hudson, in particular, they're bringing the Toonies program for us. The Hudson Public Library has programming. Hudson Area Chamber of Commerce and Tourism, the Phipps Center for the Arts, the St. Croix County Historical Society, St. Croix River Cruises, Youth Action Hudson, the National Park Service, St. Croix River Association, the Hudson Rod, Gun, and Archery Club, the St. Croix County Sportsman Alliance, Prescott Guard of Volunteer Infantry, the St. Croix Sailing School, I did that one already. Willow River State Park, the Wisconsin DNR, and the Hudson YMCA, Burnix Pepsi Cola, Jimmy John's, Hudson Dairy Queen, and Hudson County Market. So all of these different businesses are helping with some part, either providing programming or food for our lunch products for us. So yeah,
people,
products, events, programming. Truly, Riverfest does take a village. It is a community-wide organization, and there's several partners that help make it possible.
Good. Well, there are more things we could talk about, but I'm getting the hook from Nate, so I think we better wrap it up and just say thanks for watching. Hope to see you at Riverfest, some of the events between July 17th and 22nd of 2018. This is Western Wisconsin Journal.